Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Tiki Goth Club. I am in South Bend, Indiana, with Ken, who is actually the man behind Exotica Moderne. Is it modern or modern? Or
Modern.
modern, which
It's a
is,
slightly, French pronunciation.
yeah,
Rather hoity way of saying modern.
yeah. And essentially, Tiki Magazine, issue 8 just came out.
Yep.
And obviously, you're into Tiki, I'm into Tiki. But one thing that we're both into is industrial music.
Yeah, I've heard this a couple of times. Industrial and punk adjacent. I've heard the expression that is tiki is where punks go to die, which is probably true. There's a lot of industrial bands back in the '80s were sampling and into exotica music.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of a weird connection. I don't know why it exists, but it does. I was never really aware of that point until a few years ago, but I guess it's true. I'm either an old punk or an old rivet head at this point.
I just think, I think when it comes to like say Tiki or punk, industrial, goth, it's all alternative subcultures.
Yes, it is. I've been kind of drawn to that.
And yeah, well, that's what I think that I'm starting to see. It's like usually people that are, you're someone who's drawn to subcultures that are not the norm.
I just had a revelation, maybe.
What's that?
My grandparents, when I was growing up, I drew, and they always encouraged that, but
Yeah.
they always had Reader's Digest around,
Okay.
which was like this weird conglomeration of general pappy pop whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I would read that stuff, and it's like, this is like generalized for the masses. And maybe seeing that at this point just told me that I need to be looking for things that are different.
For me, it was like when our family got cable television. When we actually got the box that actually enabled us to get MTV.
To see something other than 3 networks?
13 channels. But there was USA, the USA channel.
Right.
And they had this thing called Up All Night.
I don't remember that.
USA Up All Night.
Oh, you're right. Yes, exactly. Now that you say it as a phrase, I remember.
And it would, it's the programming would start late, like 10 o'clock and stuff like that. But like they'd actually play.
Oh
yeah, I mean, it's like now I can. But I remember they'd play some of like the videos that MTV would ban. That MTV wouldn't be allowed to play. I remember seeing Another State of Mind, which was the Social Distortion documentary that came out. But I'll never forget, not really knowing what it is until it is now, but it was essentially, it was Bauhaus
yeah.
doing Bela Lugosi's Dead.
Bela Lugosi's Dead.
But it was
never released on an album, only as a single.
Only as a single. But this was a promo for the movie The Hunger. With David Bowie in it. He was a vampire. And it's a video that Bauhaus made. And I remember watching this as a teenager, and it creeped me out. Because it's Peter Murphy, and he's like, he's kind of doing this kind of thing, and then they like the picture would freeze, and
is that in black and white?
Color.
Really?
But it might as well have been in black and white. But that was my introduction into what I considered goth. But what it was is that it creeped me out, like it legitimately.
In a good way, really.
No, in a good way. And then that sort of was the beginning for me. And then from there, I got into industrial music. I had friends that they were already into. I'm lucky that I had friends that were kind of into stuff before I was. So they would be like, hey, Ray, check out this band. Hey, Ray, you would like this stuff. And then I got introduced into industrial.
Now, I have to ask, because given our 10-year age difference,
yeah.
When you say industrial,
mm-hmm.
Do you think Nine Inch Nails?
No, I think KMFDM.
There you go.
Skinny Puppy.
There you go.
Early Ministry, like Twitch.
Yeah, because a lot of people they hear industrial and they automatically go to, hard driving guitar. When I think industrial, when I got into it,
You're probably thinking
it's all synth based. It's front 242, frontline assembly, KMFDM, early Ministry. Actually, we talked about this right before we started recording. Is I started going to Wax Trax Records in 1980 when they were still on Lincoln Avenue. And I think the first time I walked in there, the very first Ministry 12-inch single was Front and Center, and that was before With Sympathy.
Before With Sympathy.
Before that. And
that's going back.
And that was really more goth atmospheric dance floor. I don't know what happened with Sympathy. You could just skip over that. I think there were two 12-inch singles, precursor, little more leaning towards Twitch. It was kind of a weird one, the one that when he got signed to Chrysalis Records. And I can't remember the name of the songs. I can picture the sleeve, gray, small inset picture of almost cathedral train station with light coming through.
And you're not talking about All Day or Every Day's Halloween?
No.
Okay.
No, this is precursor to that.
So here's the question for this episode. How and why is industrial considered goth? Or are they separate? Are they the same? Are they two worlds that just interconnect?
At this point, they've interconnected. So, like I said, I started going to Wax Trax in 1980. Mm-hmm. I grabbed things like Ultravox, Fad Gadget. I bought the very first Depeche Mode single at Wax Trax Records, Dreaming of Me, as a 7-inch record.
Yeah.
Picked up Kraftwerk there. Revco, still one of my favorite bands, Clock de Va, 80 Newton out of Sheffield, England, now via Italy. Not sure where he lives in Italy now, but...
and you are going back.
Still, it's an 80. He's still putting stuff out. Met him in Chicago a few years ago.
Yeah.
But that whole scene then, there were punks and the industrial stuff coming together. I think Wax Trax was really kind of the nucleus of a lot of this. I mean, the punk scene, there was, the California punks, there was the East Coast, Washington, D.C. area punks. But it really wasn't goth. But also when I went to Wax Trax, maybe not the first visit, could have been, but when I walked in, also on the rack front and center was Love Will Tear Us Apart as a 12-inch single.
Yeah.
And I grabbed that right away just based on Peter Saville's album art.
Because you were looking for a happy tune.
Happy tune. I
to snap your fingers.
Had not even heard of Joy Division. I bought a lot of my art as a graphic artist on what I saw. So if the sleeve looked interesting, I bought it. Luckily, this is also pre-MTV. Wax Trax was playing videos when you walked in.
They had access to videos.
Oh, they had Front 242 videos. They had everything videos. And you'd walk in, I'm like, what is that? They'd be like, oh, it's this. I'm like, okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. So it was really kind of a visual thing that made me buy music.
There's been independent record stores that I've shopped at over the years. And a lot of the better ones were places where the owner of the record store was an integral part of that record store experience. Because you'd go into the record store and you'd start talking to them. And you'd be like, what are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, well, you should check out this. Oh, if you like this, you should check out this band. Like, okay, all right, and you'd buy it. I think maybe the reason why a lot of this stuff is tied is like if you were that open-minded to go to even know about a record store like Wax Trax, just the fact that you walk through the door, you're already someone who's like looking for something that's not the norm. Just like how you were talking about with the Reader's Digest thing. It's like, I am looking for anything that's not
Reader's Digest.
Yes, Reader's Digest. And I've never been to Wax Trax Records, but I'm guessing that it's probably like a lot of record stores that I used to go to where it wasn't just a punk store. You're going to have punk, you're going to have industrial, you're going to have goth, you're going to have new wave. You're going to have all these different subcultures of music, all kind of there.
It was all there, and the cool thing about the original location on Lincoln Avenue, aside from being down from the Biograph where they killed, what was the gangster?
Capone?
No, not Capone.
No, I don't know.
It's going to hit me in a minute. Dillinger.
Dillinger, okay.
Yes, next to the Biograph. So it was like 6 doors down from the Biograph. Wax Trax was on the first floor, but they ran a clothing store on the upper level.
Yeah.
Which is definitely very goth. So they already knew those worlds were colliding. A lot of leather, a lot of latex.
A lot of black.
A lot of black. Studded collars, chokers, everything. So,
yeah.
I mean, it already was a collided culture at that point. But I think for me...
Did you ever go to any dance clubs?
Would go to Neo in Chicago.
Okay.
Neo was great because it was like down around the corner from an Urban Outfitters.
Yeah.
Go down a freaking alley and there was just a sign that said Neo and go down there. It was so cool. I did a magazine release party at Neo. Talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I'd go to Neo. I would go to the Metro. I saw, Frontline Assembly there. I saw Front 242, KMFDM, ChemLab, Sister Machine Gun. I saw Leibach at the Metro. So, yeah, I mean, Chicago had it going on. They mixed all those cultures together.
Hey, gang, we'll get back to the Tiki conversation here in just a second, but I want to let y'all know they have t-shirts for sale. They are screen printed in America. The artist is Tony Canepa, and they're going for $20 a piece, $25 including shipping. If you're interested in buying one, go to my website, tikiwithray.com, and then there's a tab that says buy a t-shirt. Click on there and just follow the prompts. So thank you very much. So I'm guessing the same people that would be into goth were the same people that would be into industrial.
Yeah, and as a bridge for me, I was going to say earlier, picking up Joy Division's Love Will Tear Us Apart, they were not intended to be a goth band. They really wanted to be a punk band.
Their early stuff is more punkier than...
Yeah, I mean, I went...
For lack of a better word.
I went and saw Peter Hook talk in Chicago when his book came out, and yeah, I mean, they really wanted... They went and saw the Sex Pistols, and they wanted to be, they wanted to be punk. But once they got in the studio, Martin Hannett, their producer, basically took the reins and told them they were all a bunch of stupid idiots, and they really... have you ever read this? Martin Hannett basically kicked him out of the studio during the mixing sessions and just did whatever he wanted to their music.
Damn.
And they really hated what Hannett did, but Hannett sort of turned them into a goth band in retrospect.
Yeah.
But Hannett also used a lot of electronics to do that. So I think there's an interesting crossover between the electronics that Hannett used on a punk band, making them pseudo-goth, post-punk, leading into industrial. That's my take.
No, well, that's a good point too. It's like, when you're talking about a punk band, you got drums, bass, guitar, singer. When you start getting into like new wavy kind of stuff,
now
you're gonna throw a keyboard in there or two.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of industrial was definitely keyboard oriented. And I'm guessing if you were gonna go out dancing to any of these goth clubs back in the 80s. Well, there's only so many bands that were out, so you had to pull.
Right.
So of course you're going to throw some industrial in there. I'm sure you're going to hear a little bit of punk in there and stuff like that.
Now I sort of credit that to Front 242. If you watch some of their early videos, they started to look militaristic, wearing the boots and the sort of army pants thing, and they were doing a lot of dance groove stuff. That was another thing that got me back into publishing too. So I used to write a lot of reviews of goth and industrial stuff.
Yeah, don't you have a couple things?
Yeah, I have a couple things here. So back in the day, let's look at let's see. Here's
Arc.
What year did I?
So is this your magazine?
It was my magazine.
Look at that.
This is volume 2, number 3. That is Sister Machine Gun on the cover. Had an interview with Chris Randall, and then ChemLab and Christ Wept. Actually, and Christ Wept was, I think they were out of Seattle.
Look at this, Leibach.
Right
on the cover.
Oh, there, right on the cover.
Look at this. KMFDM is one of the, and Frontline is one of the smaller Like, oh, all right, we're going to get to these
Well, they're
guys.
not as important as Leibach. Come on,
Look at
seriously. Yeah, this is one of my earliest publishing adventures here. Actually, if you go to that, Leibach has actually signed that for me. Of course, they only sign it Leibach if you go to the article. As you know, they're doing an art collective, so they don't sign anything as the individual people. Actually, they got top billing over Frontline Assembly.
It says here, stop doing this, Ken. You're failing miserably. No, I'm just kidding. How long did this go on for then?
I think it only ran like 6 or 7 issues. Record companies, especially the smaller ones, getting them to buy advertising and help support it was really tough. I spent more time on the phone trying to get people to buy ads.
So what you're saying is you've already released more Tiki episodes, issues of Tiki magazines than you did for your...
Yeah, but it was a good learning experience doing another magazine.
Yeah. Well, Ken, you're knocking Exotica Moderne out of the park.
Well, maybe. I think so, but...
The type of person who is open-minded and interested in subcultures like industrial, like goth, like punk, is going to be the same person who's going to be interested in a subculture like Tiki. Now, there are people out there that are into Tiki that are not into any of this stuff at all.
Yeah, they're probably not even aware of it.
No, not even aware of it. I mean, but there's way more other people that you talk to them and they're like, oh yeah, I'm totally into this. I'm totally into that. And it's funny. I was actually down in Sacramento, and I did my live show with Kurt Biddle. He has he has a home bar in Sacramento called Danger Island. And he had a little party, everyone came, we did the show, we talked about Tiki the entire time. And then after the show was done and after everyone kind of left and we were all it was like literally like a handful of us. And all of a sudden it came up that like, oh, I like industrial. Oh, I like industrial too. And then all of a sudden we just start naming bands and we start talking about how we used to all go dancing. And all of a sudden like, well, turn this Martin Denny stuff off. Let's hear some KMFDM. And we were all like jamming out to like, it was like 1991 for me, like all over again.
The last party I had here at the home bar, I think I ended the night with Jesus Built My Hot Rod.
That's a good way to end it. So they're going to do it. If you're going to do it.
Which half of the people here were like, what the hell is he playing? But
so you know what the Tiki version that's going to be? Jesus made my Mai Tai.